Search engines replaced a lot of the old ways we used to do searches. For example, let's say you wanted to know the phone number of someone. Well, it turns out it's easier simply to do a Google search for that phone number than to look it up in a phone book. Another example, let's say you were doing software development and you get an error message coming out of Microsoft. It turns out it's easier simply to do a Google search on that error message rather than look up the error message in Microsoft documentation. So the big million-dollar question is, if search engine technology is so powerful, why is it we see in smartphones literally millions of different kinds of applications? Why is it that search engine technology is not able to do those kinds of tasks? To answer that question, let's examine some of the characteristics of search engine technology. First of all, search engines work off of something called unstructured data. Things like books or magazines, text blogs. It's basically text strings. A second characteristic of search engine technology is that it typically returns many results. So you, the person doing the query, must manually go through the potentially many links that are returned by a search engine. A third characteristic of search engine technology is it's limited in its ability. It can only do queries. It can't do computation, for example. I mentioned that search engines work off of something called unstructured data. Let's look at an example of something that works off of structured data. Something like LinkedIn, for example. LinkedIn contains lots of information about various people and the skills and their experience they've acquired through their careers. It contains information of various companies. And so an application like LinkedIn is used by potentially people looking for jobs or companies potentially looking for new employees. If I'm a person looking for a job, I have to go into LinkedIn and use their custom interface to ask very specific kinds of questions. What I can't do is go into something like Google and do a search. Let's go back to talking about search engine technology today. Whenever you do a Google search, for example, you simply specify a text string. You don't need to specify the names of the servers where the data resides. You don't need to specify the type of documents where the data is coming out of, whether it's a book or a magazine or a blog or an email. You don't need to specify the industry where the data is coming from. It turns out that search engines like Google do all that magic for you behind the scenes. Just imagine what the world would look like today if there existed the ability to do Google-like query on structured data without having to know the names of underlying databases and the potentially tens of thousands of table names and column names. What would the world look like? Imagine you're in the checkout line of a grocery store and the cashier hands you a receipt and hands you a second piece of paper. And on this piece of paper is a list of ingredients in certain products you purchased. And a warning statement that says certain members of your family have allergies to these particular ingredients. Imagine a second example. You're driving in your car and you get a phone call from your left rear tire telling you its wear bar is showing. It proceeds to tell you that it did a search and found a replacement for a really good price. Proceeds to tell you that it looked on your calendar for when is the best day and time to do the installation. Went on the internet and did a search to find a company that can actually do the installation and is now calling you to ask you to confirm the proposed appointment. Another example. You've heard of smart appliances such as a refrigerator. Imagine you had a smart garbage can. Now you might be asking, why would you want a smart garbage can? Imagine this garbage can could record items that are thrown into it so that what you can do is keep a running inventory of products in your house. And imagine you were willing to expose this inventory to the outside world. Okay, so now imagine you're driving in your car and you get a phone call from OO-SQL and they tell you, we noticed in your calendar you seem to be en route to an appointment here and you're going to be driving right past OO-SQL here. We noticed that you're low on eggs and milk, and we also noticed that it's your wife's birthday tomorrow and we happen to know that strawberry shortcake is her favorite dessert. We know that you currently don't have any strawberries, so we're suggesting that you stop on by and we will have these products ready for you to pick up and we will offer you a custom deal. Imagine that scenario. Another example. Imagine you're a diabetic and you're overweight and you're on a weight loss program. And imagine you go out to dinner in the evening, it's your third meal of the day. And assume for a minute that you have a device that records the number of carbs and calories you take in during the day. And you sit down and instead of being handed a paper menu, what is handed to you instead is an electronic menu that takes into account the fact that it knows that you're a diabetic, that you're overweight, it knows what your calorie and carb goals are each day, and has looked at your device that has recorded all of your calorie and carbs you've already consumed for the day, and only shows you those items that keep you in compliance with your goals.